There are moments in life when everything feels strangely quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from loneliness or emptiness, but a deeper kind of stillness, a divine softness that settles over your spirit like a gentle blanket. It is the kind of quiet that makes you pause without knowing why, the kind that makes you breathe a little slower and feel something shifting inside you even before your mind catches up. This quiet doesn't come from the world around you. It comes from God preparing your heart for something new. And if you've been feeling this strange, tender silence lately, if your emotions have been softer, your thoughts deeper, your desire for peace stronger, then you need to understand something. Heaven is preparing you for a midnight moment. Because midnight is not simply a time on the clock. Midnight is a spiritual doorway, a transition point where the old day ends and the new day begins, where God whispers into your soul without the noise of the world drowning him out. Midnight is the hour where heaven touches earth in gentle ways, where destinies shift softly, where miracles begin quietly, and where chosen ones feel the warm breath of God guiding them into a new chapter. Your life will change at midnight, not violently, not dramatically, not with fear or chaos, but with peace, with clarity, with emotional healing, with quiet revelation, with the soft awakening of your spirit. Midnight is the moment God releases what your heart has been longing for but didn't know how to ask for. Midnight is when your soul exhales years of tension without effort. Midnight is when the weight you've carried out of habit finally begins to melt off your shoulders like frost in the morning sun. Midnight is where the version of you that you lost along the way begins to return. Not the hardened version shaped by survival and disappointment, but the gentle version, the hopeful version, the spiritually awake version, the version of you that trusts life again, trusts love again, trusts God again. God does not wake chosen ones with storms, He wakes them with whispers. And if your life is about to change at midnight, it is because God has seen the hidden parts of you that have been crying out without words. He has seen your quiet exhaustion, the kind that sits deep in your chest and doesn't announce itself to anyone around you. He has seen the moments you held yourself together for the sake of others, the times you swallowed your pain because someone else needed your strength. He has seen the dreams you placed on a shelf, the emotions you buried to keep going, the fears you pushed aside because life didn't give you the space to feel them. God has been watching gently, patiently, lovingly, waiting for the exact moment your heart was ready, not forced, not pressured, not rushed, to receive the shift He prepared for you. Midnight is the moment where your soul finally says, "I'm ready," even if your mind doesn't realize it yet. You have grown without even realizing it. You have outgrown old patterns, old fears, old emotional habits, old defenses, old attachments, old versions of yourself that no longer align with who you're becoming. You have been shedding layers quietly, like trees shedding their leaves in autumn, not because they are dying, but because they are preparing for renewal. You have felt tired not because you're weak, but because you've been expanding internally. You have felt emotionally sensitive not because you're unstable, but because your heart has been opening again. You have felt detached from old environments and old connections, not because you're isolating yourself, but because God has been separating you gently from anything that cannot follow you into your new season. The chosen ones don't shift loudly. They shift subtly. They shift spiritually. They shift emotionally first, long before life around them changes. And you've been shifting. You've been growing. You've been awakening. The heaviness that comes and goes, that soft ache in your chest, that longing for silence, that craving for gentleness, that inner pulling towards something new. These are not coincidences. These are signals from heaven that you are approaching the doorway of emotional transformation. Midnight changes your inner world before it changes the outer one. Midnight gives you back a sense of peace you didn't know you lost. Midnight reassures your tired heart that life is not against you and never was. Midnight breathes hope into the parts of you that stopped believing in soft things. Midnight touches the wounds that hardened you and says, "You don't have to be strong here." Midnight speaks gently, not with thunder, but with warmth, not with fire, but with light, not with warnings, but with comfort. And when God says your life will change at midnight, He is talking about a change so soft, so warm, so gentle, that you might not even realize it's happening at first. The shift won't come like lightning, it will come like sunrise, slowly, quietly, beautifully. It will come like the moment when morning light first touches the horizon and the world begins to glow without even noticing that night has faded. That is how your heart is going to change. Not all at once, not with a shock, but with a soft, continuous brightness. You have endured seasons where everything felt heavy, where decisions felt confusing, where relationships felt shaky, where your peace felt fragile, where your emotions felt unpredictable. You learned to be strong out of necessity. You learned to hold yourself together because no one else could do it for you. You learned to give even when you received nothing in return. You learned to survive storms that were never meant to touch you. But now, God is guiding you out of survival mode and into a season of emotional rest. You are entering a time where your spirit will feel lighter without explanation, a time where your mind stops racing, a time where you breathe without pressure, a time where the fear of the future quiets down, a time where you no longer go to sleep with heaviness on your chest, a time where the past stops haunting your thoughts, a time where old memories lose their sting, a time where your heart softens instead of tightening, a time where you stop questioning your worth and start feeling it naturally. This is why God chose midnight, because midnight represents the moment where transformation happens silently. Midnight is where healing doesn't need noise to be real. Midnight is where the heart is open enough to receive what the mind has resisted. Midnight is the moment when God slips in gently and adjusts the pieces of your life without you needing to understand how He's doing it. Midnight is the place where inner alignment begins, and you are entering alignment, perfect, peaceful alignment, alignment with your purpose, alignment with your emotions, alignment with your identity, alignment with God's timing, alignment with the people meant for your journey, alignment with the version of yourself that feels like home. Alignment doesn't rush, alignment doesn't demand, alignment doesn't confuse. It flows, it feels natural, it feels right, it feels like everything you've been holding on to finally loosened its grip. The signs have already been showing. You've been craving simplicity. You've been wanting quiet evenings. You've been drawn to soft music, to warm spaces, to gentle conversations, to meaningful moments, to peaceful environments. Your spirit is preparing itself for the next level of peace, because peace is not something God gives lightly. He gives it intentionally, and He gives it when you're finally emotionally ready to receive it. And now, you are ready, not because you forced yourself to be, not because you healed everything perfectly, not because you did everything right, but because you surrendered internally, even without noticing. Because you let go of trying so hard, because you grew tired of carrying what wasn't yours, because you became aware of what drains you, because you discovered the softness within yourself again, because you stopped fighting life and began listening to it instead. Midnight is the moment where God aligns your heart with your next chapter. Midnight is where the emotional fog lifts. Midnight is where you feel a softness wash over you that you haven't felt in years. Midnight is where the deepest part of you whispers, something is changing. Midnight is where your soul says, I can breathe again. Midnight is where the quiet transformation begins. And when the clock turns, even if you're asleep, something in your spirit will awaken, something will click, something will release, something will settle, something will heal, something will realign, something will rise. And as this awakening begins, you will notice that your heart responds differently to life. Little things that once overwhelmed you will no longer carry the same weight. Moments that used to trigger anxiety will feel softer, almost like they pass through you without shaking your spirit. Thoughts that once spiraled into fear will dissolve before they gain momentum. This is not because life suddenly becomes easier, it is because you are becoming calmer inside. Midnight does not change the world around you. Midnight changes the world within you. And once the inside stabilizes, the outside cannot disturb you the way it once did. This inner shift will feel like a quiet emotional maturity blooming inside your soul, like a new stability forming at the core of who you are. For so long you lived with emotional fires that you didn't start and battles you never asked for. You carried the weight of expectations, disappointments, and unspoken fears. You lived in a body that kept moving while your heart sometimes lagged behind. You gave strength even when you needed comfort. You offered patience even when you needed understanding. You loved people even when you weren't loved back in the way your soul deserved. And through all of that, you somehow kept going, carrying invisible weights while trying to protect the parts of you that felt fragile. But midnight brings a different kind of healing, one that doesn't require confrontation, one that doesn't reopen old wounds, one that doesn't demand explanations. Midnight brings gentle release. Midnight whispers softly, "You've done enough, you can rest now." Midnight is the moment God waves His hand over the parts of you that have been trembling, the parts that have been tired, the parts that have been longing for a safe place to collapse. Midnight becomes the sanctuary your heart didn't know it needed. This next chapter of your life will not be built on fear. It will be built on peace. It will not be shaped by urgency. It will be shaped by alignment. It will not be guided by pressure. It will be guided by clarity. You will not wake up every day wondering if life is shifting against you. Instead, you will feel something you haven't felt consistently in a very long time. Safety, emotional safety, spiritual safety, mental safety, the kind of internal safety that lets you hope again without bracing for disappointment, the kind that lets you try new things without fearing that everything will fall apart, the kind that makes you feel like your life finally has room to breathe. This shift is not coming through force, it is coming through grace. Grace is when God lifts things quietly, removes things gently, rearranges things lovingly. Grace is when you wake up and realize the burden that crushed you yesterday feels lighter today, without any logical explanation. Grace is when healing begins as a subtle warmth behind your ribs, not as a dramatic revelation. Grace is when you suddenly notice that you're no longer obsessing over things that used to consume your thoughts. Grace is when the past loses its grip without needing closure from the people who hurt you. Grace is when the heartbreak that once defined your nights now feels like a lesson instead of a wound. You are entering a season where your heart will understand itself better than ever before, where your emotions will no longer confuse you because they will finally align with truth instead of fear, where the inner turbulence will settle, leaving behind clarity like still water reflecting the sky. You will find yourself understanding your own needs, respecting your own limits, honoring your own heart. You will stop betraying your peace for the sake of maintaining relationships that drain you. You will stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. You will stop justifying your worthiness because you will feel it radiating from within. This midnight blessing isn't just about emotional renewal, it's about identity restoration. Somewhere along the journey, life taught you to see yourself through the lens of difficulty. You were strong because you had to be. You were resilient because there was no other choice. But deep down, your soul has always longed for gentleness, gentle love, gentle conversations, gentle environments, gentle relationships, gentle mornings, gentle nights. Midnight is the moment this gentleness returns, not from others first, but from within yourself. You will begin speaking to yourself differently. You will begin treating your heart with compassion instead of criticism. You will begin forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know the things you tolerated, the things you mishandled because you were just trying to survive. You will begin recognizing the innocence of your younger self and the courage of your present self. You will begin seeing how far you've come, not in achievements, but in soul growth. Your spirit has been expanding, quietly, softly, patiently. And now, with midnight approaching, this growth is ready to blossom into emotional strength that feels natural instead of forced. You will no longer have to pretend to be strong. You will simply be strong because your spirit will be rooted in peace rather than pain. Midnight will also bring new alignment in the relationships around you. People who exhausted your heart will naturally drift away, not through conflict, but through emotional clarity. People who support your peace will feel more comforting. People who match your new frequency will appear unexpectedly. Kind souls, gentle spirits, emotionally healthy individuals who feel like home instead of chaos. You will no longer attract people who drain your spirit. You will attract people who honor it. Your heart will no longer tolerate inconsistency disguised as affection. You will no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. You will no longer lower your standards just to feel momentarily seen. Midnight is the reset point where your heart becomes too aligned to entertain what once broke you. You will find yourself experiencing small miracles in your everyday life. Not loud miracles that shock you, but quiet ones that feel like they were made just for you. A message that arrives at the perfect time. A conversation that soothes your heart. A moment of unexpected clarity. A decision that suddenly makes sense. A peaceful morning after a week of emotional heaviness. A realization that feels like the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. These are midnight miracles, the subtle signs that God is realigning your life from the inside out. The more your inner world softens, the more your outer world will follow. You will begin seeing opportunities appear effortlessly, connections strengthen naturally, and doors open without resistance. You won't have to chase what belongs to you. You won't have to beg for what is meant for you. You won't have to force the timing of your blessings. When your heart reaches midnight, life will meet you there. Everything that is aligned with your spirit will begin to flow toward you, and everything that is misaligned will fall away without drama. Midnight is the moment when your soul whispers, "I'm ready for the next chapter," and heaven responds, "I've been waiting for you." Midnight is when God pours peace into the places where fear once lived. Midnight is where your inner light brightens and begins guiding you through life with ease instead of effort. Midnight is the turning point where the emotional storms you silently carried for years begin to clear, revealing a sky inside you that feels open and calm. And when this midnight moment comes, whether you are awake or asleep, something inside you will feel different. You will wake up feeling like a fresh wind pass through your spirit. You will carry yourself with more grace. You will look at the world with new softness. You will speak more gently to yourself. You will feel a quiet excitement for life again. You will realize, often without a single word spoken, that something deep within you has shifted forever. Your life is not changing because the clock hits 12. Your life is changing because you are crossing a threshold of spiritual and emotional readiness. Midnight is simply the symbol of your awakening, the moment your inner world becomes bright enough to illuminate your next chapter. And when that happens, the world around you will begin to respond. You are stepping into a season where things will make sense in ways they never have before, where the confusion will fade, where the heaviness will lift, where the emotional noise will quiet, where the truth will feel clear, where your heart will trust again, where you will finally feel like yourself, not the wounded version, not the tired version, but the whole version. God is not bringing you this midnight moment to overwhelm you. He is bringing it to restore you, to remind you that you are chosen, to remind you that you deserve peace, to remind you that you are not behind, to remind you that your gentleness is your power, to remind you that your heart was always meant to feel safe. When midnight comes, your life may not look different immediately, but you will feel different. You will feel aligned, supported, carried, awakened. And once that happens, your life will begin to shift in the direction of your healed heart. This midnight is not about endings, it is about rebirth. It is not about loss, it is about renewal. It is not about fear, it is about freedom. It is not about waiting, it is about awakening. God says your life will change at midnight because your spirit deserves the peace that is coming. Your heart deserves the clarity that is approaching. Your soul deserves the softness that is returning. Your future deserves the version of you that is rising. And when the world sleeps, heaven will move for you in silence, in warmth, in love. Because chosen ones are transformed not in chaos, but in quiet. Your midnight miracle is coming. And your spirit already feels it.